Our goal has always been to help unify Americans, to defeat Donald Trump, and to win the era for our values. And so we must recognize that at this point in the race, the best way to keep faith with those goals and ideals is to step aside and help bring our party and our country together. So tonight, I am making the difficult decision to suspend my campaign for the presidency.
Former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg left the presidential race Sunday night. He raised more than $76 million in 2019, which helped him win the Iowa caucuses and take second place in New Hampshire.
Joining us is former Buttigieg surrogate and Democratic strategist and great friend of the show, Jennifer Holdsworth, to discuss the campaign and the former mayor's big endorsement of Joe Biden.
Hi.
Jennifer, great to see you.
We missed you in the studio.
We do. We're glad to have you back here.
I have to Skype in from whatever hotel.
First of all, congratulations. I mean, whatever you think about Mayor Pete, you guys did a phenomenal job. You had a killer instinct. You outperformed, I think, what anyone's reasonable expectations could have been at the beginning. Just talk to us a little bit about the journey, what it's been like for you personally, what it was like to be on the campaign.
I just played the tiniest of roles in this, and I just want to give full, incredible due to the mayor's full on the team ground. He would not have had the success that he did without Liz Smith, his senior communications advisor, his campaign manager, Mike Schmuel, which some people may not know is actually his childhood friend who was running the campaign. Political director Stephen Brokaw did an amazing job. Me personally, I had such a unique view into the mayor's run. I served as his campaign manager when he ran for the DNC chair in January, February of 2017, and I knew that he was special. In fact, I got on a plane the day after Christmas in 2016 after only a phone conversation with the mayor because I believed in his vision. I believed in what he wanted to do for the party, but also for the American people. So it has been incredible for me personally to see the metamorphosis of the mayor's campaign all the way from 2017 and to have people across the country fall in love with him the way that I did.
So, I mean, one thing I think has surprised us is how quickly he turned around to endorse Joe Biden. I believe we have some video of that last night. Let's take a listen.
You know, when I ran for president, we made it clear that the whole idea was about rallying the country together to defeat Donald Trump and to win the era for the values that we share. And that was always a goal that was much bigger than me becoming president. And it is in the name of that very same goal that I'm delighted to endorse and support Joe Biden for president.
Talk to us about the decision behind, or just maybe in the mayor's thinking. I mean, I know he hadn't committed to a Biden endorsement the night before. Why did he ultimately decide to do it right now before Super Tuesday?
Because I think the mayor knows that Joe Biden is going to make an excellent president. And when you look at the math now, the mayor's campaign would have exceeded our raise goal for Super Tuesday. And we definitely would have picked up delegates on Super Tuesday. But if you can't win outright, right, what's the plan there? Then you're going to hoard them and force a contested convention. And, you know, the party right now is very split. You know, and so I think anything that anybody can do to start to heal those wounds now is going to put us in a much better place to defeat Donald Trump in the fall. I think, unfortunately, a lot of us are still licking the wounds from 2016 in the party, where there was such a division that lasted so far into the summer that we weren't really able to coalesce and go into the fall as a united front. And Donald Trump and the Republicans were able to exploit that. So I think the more that we're able to start to heal these wounds the earlier on, the better. And there's no question in my mind, and I'm sure the mayor's mind, that the vice president is going to make a phenomenal president. We do have some, very small differences in how we would approach policy. But what I always said, even when I came on the show, is that everybody on that debate stage has the same ideals, we have the same values, and we have the same goals. The question is, how do we get there? So I think as long as we can bridge those gaps and bridge those answers, we're headed to a good place as a party, and the mayor endorsing VP Biden was part of that.
So a major part of the mayor's pitch was generational change, right? That was a central part of the argument he made throughout the campaign, and yet young people overwhelmingly back Bernie Sanders. So doesn't an endorsement of Joe Biden, who not only is personally owned, I don't think that matters as much, but is the candidate overwhelmingly of seniors within the party? Doesn't that go directly against that idea of it's time to hand it to the next generation?
Generational change was also about inviting new people into the process. And the mayor was able to win the most people who didn't vote in 2016. So you have to look at this as a macro experiment and say, yes, overwhelmingly college students go for Senator Sanders, but who's bringing the most people from the millennial generation, from Generation X, and even those younger side of the baby boomers.
Right, but that's not Joe Biden. That's Mayor Pete that brought those people in, not Joe Biden.
Now there's a coalition with Mayor Pete endorsing the vice president, where a lot of folks who look to Mayor Pete for leadership are going to take a look at Vice President Biden and say, you know what, okay, if he's trying to pull in some of the same voters that the mayor is pulling in, then, you know, we're going to take a second look at him.
It just seemed a bit counter to the mayor's narrative, because, I mean, the pitch was really, like Crystal was saying, generational change, and it was about from the heartland. I mean, and ultimately, his success was a repudiation of the former vice president. I mean, was there an internal struggle over that within the campaign about coming to grips and having to endorse Biden? Because it means so much of it. I mean, he beat and you trounced him in Iowa, and there was a reason for that, and it was because people believed more in that than they did in the former vice president. So to turn around and endorse him, I mean, maybe just talk a little bit about that.
I don't think it was a total repudiation. In fact, that there were very few barbs thrown between the vice president and Mayor Pete. I actually think it was more about the process and how you get there. And I think you saw the mayor's closing argument was, look, you know, we're not looking to be someone who wants to blow up the party, and we're not looking to be somebody who wants to buy the party, even though there was, you know, plenty of untruths thrown at the mayor about how he was corporate and bought. You know, that's politics, and it's a part of politics that people don't like, but it is what it is. But you know, Joe Biden is that uniter. He's that middle of the road. And that was the mayor's closing argument, saying, hey, I don't want to blow up this party. Most people don't want a revolution. In fact, more than 60% of people who believe in Medicare for all actually don't understand that that means that there would not be private health insurance. So I think that there's an education factor here that the mayor was pushing, in addition to generational change. Do I still believe that the mayor would have made the very best president out of the field? I do. Do I believe that the mayor would have made the most formidable opponent to Donald Trump? I do. But that doesn't mean that myself and the mayor and everybody who supports the mayor doesn't believe that Vice President Biden stands for everything that we do as well.
So here's the counter to the electability argument that you're making in favor of Joe Biden, which is that, look, it looks very much like the electability argument that was made for Hillary Clinton. That she was the safe pick, she was the center pick, she was the establishment was behind her, and she'd be able to, you know, just that opposition to Trump would be enough to motivate people. And ultimately it wasn't, right? Ultimately, you know, sure, she won the popular vote, but she's not president. Not enough young people came out, and critically, not enough working class voters of color came out to support Hillary Clinton. Doesn't Joe Biden look like we're making that same mistake all over again, especially when he's making the same pitch that Hillary Clinton made, basically like, this is a bad man and I'm a moral man, and so, you know, our children are watching, let's just go back, let's just have this incrementalist approach, let's go back to the Obama years. Doesn't it look like we're repeating the same mistakes of 2016?
I don't think so. And it's very hard for someone like me to admit. I mean, I've been called establishment, I've been called corporate, and I didn't realize that I was a specific kind of Democrat until I was told I was in 2015, right? I always identified as a liberal. I always identified as a Democrat. Going back to the analysis of 2016, I worked for Hillary Clinton on the campaign. And when you're on the inside, sometimes it is so hard to see what others see about your candidate, especially when you believe in someone so strongly.
Sure.
Being on the outside now and being able, you know, hindsight is 2020, looking at the appeal of Joe Biden and the appeal of Hillary Clinton, I think it's very, very different. You know, while Joe Biden has the same amount of time in Washington that Hillary Clinton did. I think he appeals to a different type of voter than she did. I think that he can walk into a union hall and feel very, very at home. I think that he can do different things in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Florida than Hillary was able to do, and that's coming from someone who still believes in her today, that she would have made the best president. But I think you compare apples to oranges when you say just because someone is identified as the middle or centrist or whatever type of Democrat you want to label them, that they're going to run the same type of campaign. And I think that the party in general has learned from some of the mistakes that we made in 2016 with Hillary Clinton going into the general election. So I think this is going to be a very differently run campaign.
It's going to be interesting. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate
Jen,
you
it's great
joining
to
us.
see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Next up on Rising, Bernie Sanders has seemed to take a commanding lead with Latinos across the nation. The Hill's Rafael Bernal is going to dig into those numbers with us next.